Hey, thanks for checking out my video. This is a Burst Inquisitor. I'm going to run this little Conqueror map, show you a little showcase of what the build looks like. And after I'm done with the map, I'll talk about the build. I'll talk about it while I'm running a little bit too. So Stormburst scales like heavily with cast speed and with area of effect and with duration. So that's where you get most of the damage on a build like this. See, the damage isn't amazing, but it's good enough. I'm still low level. I kind of just threw this build together in one day because I wanted to try it. This is more like a concept really, and it's like a fully operational build at this point. It's also using Fanaticism. Never used Fanaticism before. The way it works is you have to stack up 4 stacks of the Fanaticism before it procs. And the way you do that is by using 4 attacks. So if you see this buff right here, you have to get to 4, and then once you get to 4, then you proc the actual Fanaticism buff. And the Fanaticism buff gives you huge cast speed and area of effect, and mana cost reduction. And it makes your Stormburst free for those 4 seconds. But the reason why it's annoying to use Fanaticism, and what they need to change about it, I think, is you can't just do 4 attacks in a row. You have to space them out by 1 second. So if you look here, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I don't get the buff. You actually have to wait 1 second in between every stack. So wait 1 second, wait 1 second, wait 1 second, and then wait 1 second, and then you can proc it. You can't just go proc. If you do that, Fanaticism would be amazing, probably, and you could probably make a lot of different builds with it. But I think Fanaticism stands out for Stormburst because it scales exactly what Stormburst wants, which is cast speed and AoE. So you see the way you play Stormburst is you can kind of just basically like paint over the monsters with your mouse, whatever you want to aim at. Just kind of move your mouse over them. Alright, so there's the map. Kill this boss, and then I'll talk a little more about how the skill works.
On to the next fight.
With your death, this nightmare finally ends.
A contest of will.
I'm
Avail safety and accessibility.
So you can see the damage is pretty good. It's not, you know, game breaking or anything, but it's pretty good. So if you watch Stormburst, when you start channeling it, you gain this buff right here, and this is the amount of balls that you have out.
My mana is
So when
spent.
you start, you have none, and then it stacks up really, really high, depending on your cast speed and depending on the duration. So your duration will make the balls last longer. So mine last for how long do they last? 3.2 seconds. If you see there, it says duration is 3.2 seconds right here. So that's how long they last before they explode. And the longer they last, the more damage they do. Every 0.4 seconds, you get another jump. So you see the balls like jump around. Every time they jump around, you get an AoE explosion. And so we skill a lot of skill effect duration to make them last a long time, so they bounce a lot of times, and we can also get a lot of them out at the same time. And so this is what makes the skill have good single target. And then if you combine that with AoE, the AoE makes them overlap more, and the overlap is also what makes the single target good. So that's why the skill scales with both cast speed, duration, and area of effect. So yeah, that's how the skill plays. I'll talk a little bit more about this build in particular. This is Inquisitor. Basically what I did was slapped on an Aegis, and then you stack a lot of armor and energy shield, and we're using kind of 3 different layers of survivability here with ES recovery. The first one is Divine Shield. So we have, with Flasks up, we have 30k armor, and so whenever we get hit with by enemies with physical damage, it just stacks up our ES regen up like really high. So you can see right now I have almost none, but if I'm tanking a bunch of mobs, this number will start creeping up like really high, up to like 6, 7, 8, 900. That'll just give me really good recovery to help me survive. But then the ES on block from Aegis Aurora also stacks with, or synergizes well with armor stacking. And so you see with 30k armor and even more with Molten Shell, your Molten Shell also, like, you self-cast Molten Shell here because it lasts forever because of the duration scaling that we have. And so, let's see. With Molten Shell up, I think I have 37k armor. No, 35k armor. So 2% of that is, my brain's frying. It's about 600 or so, 650 or something like that. So that's how much we get every single time we block. And we block cap with glancing blows. So we have 75 spell block, 75 attack block. So we block pretty much everything, and every time we block, we get 600 energy shield back. But then both of those are actually not even the best energy shield recovery mechanic that this build uses. The best one is actually this one, Instant Leech. So another reason why Stormburst is so amazing for this setup in particular is because you have so many balls out at the same time, and every single one of them is giving you ES on hit, basically, with this Instant Leech. So when Fanaticism is up, you can get up to like 40 plus balls at the same time, and every single one of them is bouncing every 0.4 seconds. So you're just getting an insane amount of hits for ES recovery. So if you look here, this is my ES leech rate right here. So this is my life on hit from instant leech, and then this is my I also have a Watcher's Eye with the discipline ES on hit mod. I just bought this because I'm on standard, just kind of experimenting. This would be really expensive with the armor mod especially, but you don't even really need this because the ES on hit just from this instant leech node is already like super good. But this just makes it like even more insane. So 3k from that, and then over 5k instant leech. So if you look here, the leech cap is 550, right? But that's not instant leech. So this is all I can leech, like normal ES leech, but then my instant leech is only 38 per hit. Per leech hit is what I'm leeching, but then we're hitting 110 times per second with our Stormburst balls. So that equals out to be over 5k ES recovery. So you add up all these together, and we have over 9k per second ES recovery, and that's just from the leech. And then we have regen from Divine Shield on top of that. This is showing low right now because this is counting Frost Shield. If I take off Frost Shield, that number with Divine Shield will go up to 900, 1,000, 800 maybe. So then you have insane ES Leech, insane ES Regen, and then the Aegis Aurora ES on block on top of that. So the amount of energy shield sustain that this build has just lets you just tank anything with block. So that's the survivability. That's how you stay alive. You just basically stack armor and then stack like insane ES recovery, and then you get go CI also, so that you're immune to chaos, and then you get the nice cold res from Aegis, and then all the block and ES, and that's your defensive layers. Then you take this skill effect here, anoint the other one, so you have a really good skill effect duration. And then the rest of the build is just you fill in damage. You get this. You use this. I really wanted to just be able to just stand still and tank everything, so I decided to try this because I've never used it before. So when you stand still for 5 seconds, you get 20% double damage and 10% less damage taken. So this is like almost as good as having Fortify. But it works for dots too. It's not just hits like Fortify, so it's actually almost better than Fortify in a way. And then get your spell block from here and here and here. And then I take these nodes right here for stun immunity. So if you take these two nodes plus this little wheel here, you get 100% chance to avoid stun while casting. So while you're channeling, you cannot be stunned. So you can just channel forever and you'll never be stunned out of it, even though you have no life. Because you're leeching so much, you can just tank anything.
I must
And
have
I'll
time
put in
to
this little
gather
map here and
will.
just kind of show you what that looks like a little bit more. Oh, infusion is also insanely strong too. With this node right here, rapid infusion, you get more infusion effect. You just kind of find like a big pack of mobs here, just kind of let them hit me. You can use Frost Shield, that gives you another layer of survivability. You can self-cast your Molten Shell. You can see my ES here. This is just with ES unblocked from Aegis. This is like no leech, and then Divine Shield. See here, my ES regen is up to 1,000. This is from Divine Shield. So every time I'm getting hit for physical damage, I'm getting ES regen from that. So that compared with the ES unblock is just keeping me alive forever. And then as soon as you start channeling, as long as you're hitting stuff with your Storm Burst, your ES will just be at full all the time. You will never be like in any danger as long as you're hitting something. So yeah, that's how the build stays alive. It's very, very tanky. Cover the passive tree a little bit more. You get armor here, this for damage, take this for mana, spell block, glancing blows. Kick this because it's just free damage because we're Inquisitor, so we have lots of strength because we take these two nodes right here. So we take this as well. Take these for Fanaticism, and then this one for ignore resistances. So we don't use any penetration on this build. We just use this for it. It's good damage. And then you come up here, get this ES. You can go up here too and like grab this. This build's pretty flexible actually. And then at first I was actually pathing up across here, but then I decided that it was actually more efficient to come this way instead. And then anoint this. I take this node right here. So you might be wondering like why I have all these different skills here. It's because of this node right here. So you get cast speed for every non-instant spell you've cast recently. And so that's why I have Orb of Storms and Frostbomb here. They're just to proc this extra cast speed. That's it. Like these two skills are doing absolutely nothing. And like Sigil of Power is almost not doing very much either because it takes so long to channel up the stages. But it's really just there to proc an extra stage of this. So what you can do is before you're about to fight something like a boss or an essence or whatever, you can just put down Frost Shield, put down Sigil, put down Orb of Storms, and then put down your Frostbomb, and then Flame Dash on top of that, and then start channeling, and that's going to give you lots of cast speed. So you can see my cast rate here. It's going to go up when I start channeling, and then goes up from that, goes up from that, goes up from that, goes up from that. Flame Dash goes up even more. So you can see every time you cast, the cast speed just starts going up and up and up. And that's because of this. So this is a very good mastery here. Then the instant leech mastery you take the spell damage per block because we have block cap, so that's good damage. The shield crit multi one is also pretty good for later on. I'm only level 90 by the way, so there's a lot more room to grow here. I'll take this jewel socket. We'll take this crit wheel here, which is also very good. It's not quite as good as this cluster though, so I took this cluster instead with precise focus. Watcher's Eye I talked about, and then I have this jewel here, which is just good damage. And that's about it for the tree. And then the gear, this is just a generic standard wand I bought. I think I paid like 15 divines for this, but this is pretty overkill. You don't need a wand this good. But yeah, +1 crit, damage, cast speed. I crafted this ring with an essence, with cast speed essence, I was just looking for strength and energy shield, and I got a low strength roll, but I didn't really feel like crafting it, so I just kept it. And it's Elder. I specifically bought an Elder ring because of using Mark of the Shaper. So Mark of the Shaper is a very good ring for this build. Gives you tons of spell damage, energy shield. Uh, yeah, it's very, very good. Good damage. And then Yoke, I just threw Yoke on here because I was using it on another build and my standard stash is a mess and I was just looking for an amulet and I was like, whatever, I'll just throw Yoke on. Yoke's not even a good amulet for this build at all. You can see my reses are like way over capped. I don't need the res. The increased damage taken is pretty good, but there's way better amulets than this. And then Crown of the Inward Eye is very good. Transfiguration of Soul makes all your energy shield give you spell damage, so that's very good. Same with mana. And then Stormburst Enchant is good. Chest piece, just tons of armor and energy shield. Little resist, and then Fizz Taken has Ellie. These boots here are very good. They give you all your charges when you stand still and start channeling. So that's just an easy way to get all your charges for free. Prism Weave Replica. This belt sucks. It's just the best one I had in my stash, so I just decided to chuck it on. It's lots of damage. But I would get a crystal belt, like with Crusader influence, and get like another like 1500 energy shield if I was gonna actually play this build like properly. So yeah, this is just pure damage basically. And then gloves, exposure with unnerve, and then energy shield, resists, strength, dex. You need a little bit of dex on the build. And then you need strength. Strength is good to have for the crit because every strength is like having crit basically. Because of this, if you've never played Inquisitor before, basically if you get strength, it gives you crit chance. As long as your strength's lower than your int. And then, yeah, that's it for the gear. Flasks, basalt, and granite, stacking that armor up really, really high. And then silver flask for his cast speed, and then crit. And then you need a mana flask. If you don't run a mana flask, you're gonna run out of mana. Like you can see, Stormburst just drains your mana like pretty hard. And then once you run out, your ball count is gonna reset. And resetting your ball count resetting, you can see that the stack goes away. That's really bad. So you just throw on a mana flask, you can solve that problem. When your Fanaticism is not procced. When your Fanaticism procs, because it gives the 75% reduced cost, it makes your Stormburst free. But when it's not procced, you need to have this mana flask or you'll run out of mana. And then for suffixes, just cast speed, movement speed, armor, crit chance, super basic. And then the crit gain a charge when you crit is really good for this build because you have so many balls hitting. You're just critting like all the time. So it gives you like almost permanent flasks. So that's very, very strong. Yeah, that's it for the gear. That's it for the tree. What else do I need to talk about? This is pretty good. It gives you more fizz reduction. It's going to help your Divine Shield proc more. This for freeze immunity, but there's Pantheon probably might be better choices. I'm just lazy. What else? I think that's about it. I just threw this build together for fun because I wanted to try the idea of just being able to tank standing still using Stormburst because I like Stormburst a lot. I think it's just a cool skill. I wish that the channeling clusters on the passive tree didn't get removed when they added the masteries. If there was like some channeling masteries, that would be really cool for skills like this because like this skill is so cool, but just standing still in this game is so dangerous. You have to have a build like this that can just survive standing still. Otherwise, a build like this can just never be viable, really. But yeah, I'll link the PoE in the description. You guys can mess around with this setup if you want. This is pretty fun. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching this one, guys. See you next time.